Welcome back to Concise ENT exam preparatory revision video with me Kavya Tendal. Today we'll be seeing about the Meniere's disease from ENT otology part. If you have not subscribed our channel, do subscribe for more interesting videos like this and as well press the bell icon so that you will receive a daily video notification. We'll directly go to the topic proper. Meniere's disease is also called as endolymphatic hydrops. One thing I want to emphasize here is men. So it is basically affecting men than women. Next, Meniere's disease is actually a disease of inner ear. Inner ear is supplied by labyrinthine artery. The causes could be either that could be increased production or decreased absorption of endolymph. When we take a cut section of the cochlea, that is the organ of Corti, here is the stria vascularis. From the stria vascularis, there is produced production of endolymph. So whenever there is increased production or decreased drainage, there will be bulging out of this descendant membrane, and as a result of that, at one point of time there is rupture. The endolymph present here and the perilymph present here will be mixing each other. That's it. So why it is all happening is because one, it could be ischemia of the endolymphatic sac or anoxia of this capillary which is present in the stria vascularis, or there could be allergy, viral etiology, and hypothyroidism. Sodium water retention could be the add-on causes for the development of Meniere's disease. Now coming to what is the theories, that is rupture theory, which is related to Meniere's disease. What is actually changes whenever there is bulging and rupture, there is initial irritative phase because endolymph is rich in potassium. This potassium will irritate the hair cells. This is initial irritative phase. Then paralytic phase. In this phase, there will be all the neurotransmitter will be blocked, and then later there is fibrosis, and that is recovery phase. After these three phases, there will be again periodic rupture by increasing endolymph. When this is happening consecutively, there is ion induced destruction of the hair cell. Later, the person with Meniere's disease will have complete high frequency type of hearing loss. Now coming to the disease proper, the male are affected than the female, and it is commonly affecting unilaterally. We have already said there is retention or increased fluid in the endolymphatic sac as well in the semicircular canal, utricle saccule, cochlea and everything. One important thing, there is bulging of all the parts, labyrinth, and as a result of that, whenever the saccule is bulging, the foot plate of stapes will be impinged, and thereby the person is going to present with episodic vertigo. Why there is episodic vertigo? Because this fluid will be present only periodically because there is periodic rupture. So episodic vertigo, that too the rupture could be spontaneous, so it is a spontaneous recurrent episodic vertigo which will be associated with nausea, vomiting, and this could be the first symptom the person is going to present with. And also he is also presenting with oral fullness because every part of the labyrinth will be filled with the fluid. So person present with oral fullness. This vertigo can be associated with nausea or vomiting. Then comes tinnitus. Tinnitus is a ringing sound, right? So here it is of the hissing character, tinnitus. And then the person could have fluctuating hearing loss. Ultimately, there is mixing of endolymph and perilymph, and thereby there is impaired hearing loss. This hearing loss could be of sensorineural type of hearing loss because it's concerned with inner ear. The person will be like more intolerant to the loud sound, and he will be presenting with diaplicusis also. What is diaplicusis? Is the person will be perceiving one particular frequency to be higher in one ear, and that same particular frequency will be normal in one ear. That is called as diaplicusis. Now these are all the triad and important features the person is going to present with Meniere's disease. There's something called Tullio phenomenon. What is Tullio phenomenon? Is actually whenever there is loud sound that induced vertigo, and that is called Tullio phenomenon. This is seen some cases of Meniere's disease. On examination, we know it is a pathology of inner ear, so the tympanic membrane will be normal, and there will be false positive Henneberg test. On doing tuning fork test, we'll confirm that it is a sensorineural type of hearing loss. Coming to audiometry test, because any ear pathology will do audiometry, and here on to remember the audiometry test, let us take a mnemonic like PQRST, like what we see in the ECG waves. Take out Q alone, so we get P for Puron audiometry, R for recruitment, S for SISI, and T for tone decay test. Here PTA will be showing, as I already said, there will be initial low frequency and later high frequency sensorineural type of hearing loss. Speech discrimination will be 55 to 85 between the attacks of vertigo, and SSSI is more than 70%. Recruitment will be positive. Tone decay will be less than 20 decibels. And coming to electrocochleography, one important thing is the summation potential and AP action potential ratio will be more than 30%. Next is coloric test. That will be reduced. That is reflecting, that is the canal paresis. On glycerol test, the hearing will be improved because glycerol is an osmotic agent, so that it decreases the endolymphatic pressure, thereby hearing loss improves. Now, based on the audiometry, by pure on audiometry, we can actually stage the disease by less than or equal to 25 decibel, then the person will be in the stage 1 of Meniere's. If it is more than 70 decibel, that is stage 4 of Meniere. In between, this range that is 26 to 40 decibel could be stage 2, and 41 to 70 decibel is stage 3 Meniere's. Next, coming to what are the variant of Meniere's. Basically, if it occurs in the cochlea, then it is cochlear variant. We know cochlea is for hearing, then there will be no vertigo component in the patient. If it is occurring in the vestibular component, vestibular is for balance, and the person will have vertigo but will not have hearing loss. There will be sparing of cochlear function, right? Next, another variant is dropout attack, or also called as Timarkin otolithic crisis. Here, the person will not have even liver hearing loss as well vertigo, but he will have a feeling that he will be walking and someone is pushing down to the ground, and this is the presenting complaint, the dropout attack. Next is Lermois syndrome. Lermois syndrome, to easily remember, remember LER, L for loss, put off here like that. So loss of hearing, the person will present first with loss of hearing, that is there's reversal of classical presentation of Meniere's disease, that is called Lermois syndrome. Next is Meniere's syndrome, or it is also called as secondary Meniere's disease. Till now we have seen about Meniere's disease. Here it is Meniere's syndrome. It is also called as secondary Meniere's disease. Now, why it is happening? If at all a patient have undergone any ear surgery or any head trauma, person affected with syphilis, or any autoimmune disease, viral infection, especially mumps and measles, presented with previous history of CSOM, Cogan syndrome, will all present with features similar to Meniere's disease, and this is called as Meniere's syndrome. Differential diagnosis could be schwannoma, TIA, and multiple sclerosis. TIA is transient ischemic attack. Now, come what is the management? We know basically the person is having severe vertigo and tinnitus, so we should first reassure it. Then there will be sodium water retention, so low salt intake. And as the similar every disease prevention, it is like no smoking, no alcohol, coffee, tea, and everything should be said no. And as well, the person should have a stress-free life. This is general. On management, what it comes is first in acute attack of vertigo, just give the patient reassurance and bed rest. Then for vertigo attack, just give vestibular sedative and vasodilator, because we know that because of ischemia of sac could be attack of vertigo could be taking place, so we can give vasodilator, especially carbozine. Chronically, it would be of management is similar to this, but extra we have to give diuretic, because there is fluid accumulation. We can give diuretic. And hormone, if at all the person is hypothyroid, correct the thyroidism, and it is like hormone therapy. And propanthelin bromide can also be given in chronic phase. Coming to ablation, medical ablation, very simple. We take a gentamicin and give intratympanic injection, that is into the labyrinth itself, that distracts labyrinth. This is chemical labyrinthectomy we can do. And next, this is actually a destructive procedure. There could be of ultrasound radiation procedure. This is also destructive, and as well cryoprobe therapy. We can do ablate the labyrinth. Next, surgical management is, we know there is increased fluid present in the endolymphatic sac, so we can give decompression, endolymphatic sac decompression, or we can do endolymphatic shunt. We can do saculectomy, or nothing is done, we can go opt for another surgery, that is vestibular nerve section. We know that 8th nerve is the one which has vestibular component and cochlear component. Cochlear component is for hearing and vestibular component is for balance. The person will go into present with vertigo, so to relieve the person from vertigo, we are doing vestibular nerve section. And then the recent advancement could be of Meniere device. What is it? Meniere device is the device can have a plug. That plug is done plugged into the EAC, that will produce a vibration, and this vibration will give a movement in the endolymphatic sac. There will be increased movement and drainage of the fluid, as well there is decreasing in symptoms. This is all about Meniere's disease. Thank you so much for your patient listening.